Choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's Joshua Demers Productions with the Budgie Buddies J&K presenting solar panel and wiring rearrangement with 24 volt to 12 volt 60 amp converter installation, some ventilation contemplation, and inadvertently including complete circuit protection. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I am excited. I finally get to go and step back down properly to 12 volts. There is my new 24 volt to 12 volt step down 60 amp device, and it weighs as much as a brick. So I'm positive that thing is a powerful device. Is it going to be a clean device? Like, is it going to put noise out from my stereo and stuff? I'm going to find out tomorrow when I install it. Like I was saying, I got my extra 2 controllers in, and I got my 2 little fans in. See what I was talking about? These fans fit in this window a lot better, a little less resistance and everything, so they're a little quieter. And I went ahead and fixed up, anyway, I went ahead and redid my switch, and what I did was now I got one plug and I just flip it around to reverse, master on and off, and woo! And it definitely pushes all the way on through. So now I got that fixed up nice for now. Went ahead and started straightening out all my wires. I got a switch over here for a little 5 volt DC adapter for this fan. So that's going to basically keep that fan running. Unless I want it portable, then I've got a couple other cords and battery packs and power supplies for that. But that's going to be where it's going to be. And if I'm not using it, I can turn that off to save a little extra runoff. That one right there, if that new DC to DC step down converter does make noise over the stereo, then I won't return that, and I'll keep it for, you know, anything I have hooked up to audio for now. But who knows, it might work out. The reason why I say that is this is 4 wires, 2 in, 2 out. And this is only 3 wires, which shows the ground, so that might not work good with digital, or well, it's not digital, but audio equipment. Experiment. Anyway, so I found this as I was just shopping around the mall at a little kiosk for $2. It's 24 volt, 1 amp, so it works perfect to plug this thing in. So I got my little clock radio on the corner plugged into this. This puts out just enough to run the phone real well with the screen. I don't know about the screen on, but at least with the hi-fi and hotspot, it more than charges. So that works good, sustainable to keep all that running. So now I've got all my 5 volt, 12 volt, and 24 volt. And I meant to mention, this is still wired up in series. So these fans are still 24 volt, two 12 volt fans, but wired up 24 volt. So when one runs, they both run. And those are the fans I'm going to plan on putting the digital controller in. I'd like to find one with the thermostat, because you know, it'd be nice is if I wake up in the morning, or I leave to go somewhere, and I wake up in the middle, and I come back at night. If it gets hot, I'd like the fans to come on, or the opposite. If it, you know, starts to get cool in the evening, go ahead and shut these fans off when they're not needed anymore, to save me some batteries and, you know, keep the birds a little more comfortable until I get home. So I'm going to be looking real hard for a fan regulator that's reversible, remote, multi-voltage, and has the ability to turn on and off the fans between temperatures. But anyway, back to this. So far, so good. This is working really good. I went ahead and I'm just showing you my progress. Hooked this up to my RV 24 volt circuit right now to test it. Put the controller in, hooked it up, and remember the 2 16-inch fans I was talking about moving? Well, there's one right there, and I can actually move it down just a little bit more, and it takes up almost that whole window, but much more than those 14 inches it would do. And again, that fan was overlapping those windows, so I was wasting a little bit of capacity, so to speak. And then again, that hook little setup I made right there is working good for that window to blow across when I'm laying on my bed, or when I've got clothes drying out on the rack, and I'll set me up a hook over there for, like right now, this would be a good time to put that fan over there and have it either sucking in, or with those fans blowing out, or the opposite, have them all pushing in, you know, and just maybe open the ceiling vents to push the air through the top, which that's another thing I've been working on. I got this here. I can slam it open and lock it open. I'm gonna have to work on that one. This one here, I can just, you know, I take a screwdriver and go and then swirl it around and screw the screws back in. But eventually I want to try to put a hinge on it as well. Or what I really should do, and the reason why I leave this on other than temperature control is because I don't have one of the little covers, but I've got a dome over there. When it rains real hard, sometimes it splashes back in. Like when it was yesterday, I left that open and came home and it was just a little damp right here and on my chair from the overspray right there. And I was like, ah, crap. So what I really need to do is get a couple of those domes, but I don't want to get the frosted ones because I've already got frosted covers on them to let in as much light as possible. I want clear ones, and those are expensive and hard to find, but I'm gonna eventually just spend the money and buy them. And then to just swap these out, I'm just gonna, they actually make the metallic looking, you know, insulated cutouts that are, you know, like I guess Velcro or snap in. And that's what I'm gonna just do, is when I wanna black it out or insulate, I'll have those things properly made that fit in, and when I want to move them out, I pull them out. And then the same thing, if I want to keep the air from moving in and out, I'll get those clear domes and close them to keep the rain and everything out. But if I want the temperature to move out, or I should say, if I want the light in, but I don't want air movement or rain in and out, you know, protection, close them. And if I want full ventilation, open them all up. So that's probably going to be one of my next projects, is tackling these ceiling things, because it is nice to have the light. Sometimes it gets a little hot, but so you have to sacrifice without the light. But I think if I get those domes and everything else, I think I'll have a winner either way. And again, same thing. Yeah, I can't have the light come in when it rains because it splashes in. All right. I think I talked enough. Oh, just so we all can see, in reality, this thing sure does. Boom, that's 100 watts right there. Or 120 watts right there. And not a lick of trouble, which I'm guessing it's about 11, 12 amps. So yeah, I think just did that without issue off of a 12 gauge wire. Did I talk too much? All right, to give you guys an update, I got my little controller here ready. I went ahead and made me a couple of cable ends to run up over to here where these used to connect. These go straight to the breaker in the battery, which is now 24 volts. So I'm gonna obviously bolt those up to here, and these up to here, up to there, and then the RV will be back to 12 volts again. And then my 24 volts will be up at my solar controller output if I want to run fans or any other items. So now we just hook this up, mount the box up inside of there, and flip the switch, call it a day. All right, I believe I've got this thing here in pretty good shape. I've got the ground, I've got the hot end, and the 12 volt out. Let's go. Okay, when I turn this on, all the lights are going to be only half power. They're going to be real dim. Now, what on earth are all these dead animals getting up in here? I'm finding like dead frogs and toads all up on my batteries. I'm going to have to clean them up all the time. I don't know what it is. But anyway, here we go. And I need to swap that out with the 60 and put the 100 in between the breaker, in between the inverter. Anyway, here we go. Boom. Oh, my lights are on. But yeah, like I said, they're dim. Yeah, they're real dim. Yeah, they're so dim compared to the way they normally are. But they're working. That means I made some progress. And that means that I should be able, the whole reason why I even got all this done tonight was so I can plug this fan in and enjoy it. So, all right, I did it. Looks like the batteries aren't over filled anymore. And went ahead and got the 60 amp breaker connected, 24 volts over to the converter down in the back of the RV. And then I got the 100 amp breaker hooked up to the inverter, 120 volt inverter. And I also got the power out between the charge controller and the batteries. I got that connected to this breaker too, so that, I mean, literally these two lines right here stop right there, and the breaker, nothing else connected to the batteries. So I don't expect the charge coming in from the controller is going to cause any problems, because when the it's actually opposite. When there's no power coming in from the solar panels, it's putting power out to the charge panel. So I think that'll be all. I believe the reason I can get away with putting the breaker between the battery and the charge controller, even though it's outputting on the load side, is like I said, because it does the opposite when it goes back. But also, while it's putting out, it'll actually be putting out more to whatever I'm using before it even gets to the battery first, if I'm using anything. But anyway, I redid my solar panels. They look a lot better. Like I said, I took it down and made it just 2 cords instead of all those crazy cords. Took some of those extra cords, made a couple of extension cords so I could move it back down because of the way the shadow goes. But anyway, here's that breaker I got in line. I noticed the tray fills up with water a little bit, so I'm gonna sit here and drill me some holes in the bottom of it, flip the breaker back on, and go make sure everything's still working. My point is that I've got a breaker right after the solar panels, so this whole line here is protected from anything coming out, and there shouldn't be anything ever going back. So I don't need another circuit breaker. And there's supposed to be a load protection on the controller, and then on the back, again, between the battery and the charge controller, anything backfeeding into the controllers should have a surge protect, short protect, and anything coming back in from the battery. Like I said, now I've got that other breaker on it, and then anything out to the inverter, I've got a breaker on it. So yeah, I think absolutely all of my circuits now are properly protected, including the new converter I got sitting in the back. It's like I said, sitting on that 60 amp breaker right off the battery now. And anything going to that converter has got the car fuses installed in the RV panel. So even the feed side to the converter is actually fuse protected too, now that I think about it. Fantastic. I think I'm in good shape. All right, so now I'm officially finished up. Just turned the circuit breaker back on for the panels, and they're coming in back through the circuit breaker now. 2 circuit breakers technically, right? No, 1 circuit breaker coming up into the charge controller, then the circuit breaker is way down by the panels, and then coming out of here, it's going to the load side of the circuit breaker, and then right to the battery. And I don't think that's going to matter because this isn't never going to be a super duper output. And then of course this is circuit protected over to here, 24 volts for these 2 fans, so they run right off the batteries. I got this over here for a battery monitor and a little charger, or a little power supply for my little clock. So I got that all set up. Like I said, I can take that, flip that around to reverse that, on, off, speed control. Now that I got that converter, 12 volts, I got a single fan over here, got a power switch over here for it, and variable speed, and figured out how to mount that. Just using that cell phone double-sided tape. Man, that actually sticks really good. That's really impressive. I might just do that to all of them if I have a problem mounting them. Just double-sided tape and stick it. Yeah, and went ahead and cleaned these switches out too, so they actually come on and off and stop flickering and fluttering. Went ahead and added a light right here. I'm probably gonna add me one more light over here to light this whole area up over here, and maybe one more light up in here, and then I can be pretty happy with the lighting too for what I've got. So not too shabby at all. Good deal. Yeah, buddy. And sure enough, I can hook that thing up, turn the coffee maker on, which is the highest load I've encountered other than the hot water heater. You know, let's try that, see if it pops that breaker. I should have done that before I put the battery box on, but oh. Yep, hot water heater's working, not popping the breaker. Good deal. Looks like I got that inverter hooked up with protection now. Fantastic. And of course it's got its own internal, you know, protection both ways. So yeah, I'm all set now. I will say one more thing. With that new converter hooked up to that fan, when I jammed it on real fast a couple times, it had a little trouble keeping up with that fan, and I think it might be two reasons. One, it's 60 amps, the fan's only 10 amps, 1.2 amps, something like that, or 10 or 12 amps. Anyway, it might have been a little bit of that, you know, because you're supposed to have something three to five times the size of the motor. But the other thing I think was causing it, and that's why I went and did all that breaker work, was I had this running in as a temporary wire between this and the breaker going to the DC panel back here, going 24 volts to all the in-series lights and fans. And with that going to the breaker, then over to the box, and then all the way back out to the wall, and then back over to here, that was probably tripping that thing out. Plus I was doing it without the solar panels putting out too, so it was going off of half quarter to 3 charged batteries, so the voltage wasn't super optimal either. So I'm hoping that it's not a limitation of the converter, that it was just all these long wires, mainly this smaller wire between the battery and the main box. But now you see I got that big thick cable going to the breaker, a big thick cable, 24 volts going to here to get rid of heat dissipation, and then it goes right to the box, big old fat terminals, and then goes to another big cable right to the fuse panel, and then out 12 volts to here. So I think if I do that, I shouldn't have any problem with that thing having trouble starting these fans. I'll play around with that later. I ain't gonna do that right now. But that is so cool. And this, of course, this one here in the bedroom is reversible. I put me another little box up there where I can go do click and reverse it. So if I want to try pulling air instead of pushing, I can. The only fan right now that's not reversible is this one, but I don't really think it's gonna need to be reversible because it's the Birdie fan, and I just don't see any positive in pushing air out. And I did check these blades. They do work in reverse, but they're more effective pushing than pulling because of the way they're shaped. They've actually got a little bit of a curvature to scoop the air out, and if they're going in reverse, that curvature is kind of sucking air, so it's not the same. Like I said, so basically they're inefficient exhaust, or they're less efficient exhaust fans and very efficient blow fans, but they are reversible without even unhooking, without doing anything but just reversing the polarity. That's pretty cool.
The Bluetooth device is connected successfully.
And last but not least, that new 24 to 12 volt converter doesn't make a buzzing noise over the 12 volt audio systems. Again, as long as I have a digital device running off its own separate power supply, keeping it disconnected, it doesn't buzz through anymore, including with the computer running. So that's pretty awesome. That was a big thing that was gonna make or break getting to return that right there and getting another 15 bucks back, which is 30 bucks, which is almost half what I paid for a new converter after I returned both those. So yeah, I expected to spend about $30 on 2 of these. I spent $60 on that big one, but I'm getting, you know, $30 back for those 2. So I didn't spend 90, I only spent 60, and I got what I want though. Well anyway, what I'm trying to say is instead of getting the big one and then needing one of these to separate for my audio system and having to spend $75 plus tax, I spent $60, less than $60 plus tax, because I can return that one because this big converter doesn't put out noise even though it shows the ground. I don't know how it does it, but apparently I mean, they were selling them for around $100, $110. I got that, like I said, almost half price, I feel. And yeah, it was worth it. Wow, what a difference having all my 12 volt work off 24 volt. And I left it on all night long with a couple of lights on and stuff to see if it used up power in standby. Didn't even drop my voltage hardly at all overnight, leaving that converter plugged in all night with a couple of lights on. Yeah, so it says 95, 97% efficient. I believe it, totally believe it. Wow, yeah. Oh, and another thing. I went through yesterday and finally like I said, since I finally got all my equipment in and just about got everything figured out where I want it and wired, I finally got some hangers and staple gun and tacks and stuff, and I straightened out all of my wires everywhere, ran them as straight as I could. Remember, some of these wires are a little tight because I just don't have extra wire to run around in the corners. But and the same down here, I cleaned all the wires up, got them running right along the sill or the sills and everything, cleaned them all up between the computer and the stereo, so there's just a little bundle of cables right there in the middle, and a power cable going to the TV so I can pull it out, move it around. But yeah, look at that. I really got all my wires and everything all straightened out. For real, look at this. Oh, and now that I got 12 volts going, I can hook my light strip up again. That's actually, I forgot about that. That's the last thing I need to do. I need to grab some power off of that wire and hook up my little thingy, and I found the remote to it the other day right there. And I got some Christmas lights I can plug into 120 volt, and they don't seem to draw a lot of power either. So I might decorate with some more colorful, happy lighting. Answer the phone, Joshua! Thanks for watching. In the next episodes, I end up moving my hot water heater over to the front of the RV and setting up the stove up against the wall and connecting them both to an external propane tank, getting that propane tank out from underneath, and eventually adding an internal water tank, pump, and self-potable water system.